Thank you so much for making the time to invest in learning about our Honduran neighbors and being part of this community in a new and different way.
Now at Leadership Mission International, we empower women to develop strong hearts, strong minds, and strong voices through our long-term mutually transformative partnerships with them. So this actually, these Strong Voices series are part of that work that we're doing to partner with women meaningfully, because we know that part of it is also building education and resources for those of us in the US to better understand women who are on the ground in Honduras. And again, our primary purpose for tonight is just to talk a little bit more about what it's like for women who are growing up on the ground in rural Honduras, with the goal being that you would kind of have an ability to see how is life, what does it actually look like for a lot of the women who are coming to the Leadership Center? What kinds of opportunities are available to them and what are they looking for? So we're focusing on the first 3 chapters in the book, Don't Be Afraid, Gringo. But I'll say again, if you end up reading it after the call or not feeling like you have time or capacity for that during these sessions, that's absolutely okay. So let's start by talking a little bit about some statistics, some research based on what things are like in rural Honduras right now. So tragically, Honduras has the 5th highest rate of violence against women of any country in the world. Part of that is actually related to the fact that domestic violence wasn't even considered illegal until about 2017. And so it's really right now that education is becoming more available for women and children to be aware of what violence within the home even looks like. According to statistics, of the 5 million women living in Honduras, 1 dies a violent death every 18 hours. And I think that's a pretty powerful statistic, because if you're thinking about that in the context of there only being 5 million women and yet still one of them dying a violent death every 18 hours, it is clear that there is a major problem and something that the world should be turning our eyes towards. Only about 2 out of every 10 women in Honduras is illiterate, with little access to education beyond basic primary school. That is even more true when it comes to women who are growing up in rural areas. And so in the introduction to Don't Be Afraid, Gringo, I think this is a powerful place for us to start. The author, whose name is actually Medea Benjamin, she is a journalist who goes to Honduras. She meets the campesina woman, Elvia Alvarado, and then she narrates and translates the story of Elvia Alvarado in this book, Don't Be Afraid, Gringo. Elvia Alvarado herself is a campesina woman, and what that means is she's a farming woman. She's a woman from a rural area. She lived outside of the city of Comayagua, who unfortunately died in January of this year. So she was continuing to live and to do activist work up until this year. And she says here, if you really want to understand what I'm saying, she said, you'll have to go out with me and see where I work, how I get there, where I sleep, how the people I work with live. Otherwise, you'll never know if I'm telling the truth. And I love this reality that she points out to her readers, saying, come and understand who we are, come and know what our communities are actually like, so that you will have a better understanding. So then she talks about, particularly in chapter 3, and she calls it the real Honduras. She says, if you just are driving on the highway, you might think that Honduras is a rich country, because you wouldn't really see the poverty that is so deep within the rural areas. And I think, to me, that really capitalizes the difference in my understanding of poverty. You know, when I'm looking at a picture like this and thinking, wow, that looks like a poor community. And Elvia Alvarado is saying, if you look at Honduras just from the main highways, you might have the understanding that it's a pretty wealthy community. And I think what that shows is that so much of Honduras is actually in an extreme situation that's far beyond even what's pictured here. So to go into that a little bit deeper, she talks a little bit about housing and what that looks like. This here is a pretty typical home for a lot of people. But what Elvia shares actually is that a lot of people are living in homes that don't necessarily have doorways. You can see here she talks about they're made out of bamboo or sugarcane or corn stalks. She talks about housing just looking very differently than what we might think about. She also talks a lot about the typical Honduran diet. Most campesinas live on tortillas and beans. And she talks later in the book too about, in these rural places, for a lot of children who are growing up here, malnutrition and malnourishment is just kind of part of life. They don't necessarily have access to a lot of vegetables in their diet. Clothing in Honduras is actually pretty typical. You'll see a lot of people wearing t-shirts and jeans, many of them actually wearing t-shirts that have English sayings on them. But I think one of the things that can be, that for me was really eye-opening, is considering that when you go to a lot of the different rural communities in Honduras, there are many different shops that almost look like they've had kind of a garbage dump of large bins full of used clothing in these communities. And I think for me, it really highlighted, oh, actually, when Goodwill isn't able to sell their clothing, where does all of that go? Well, a lot of times I think it is actually dumped in different places in the developing world. And again, when you think about the market impact, it makes it much more challenging for people who are small business owners to be able to sell their own clothing. She also talks a lot about healthcare and what it looks like when you're living in a rural area. Many people have a real challenge getting to healthcare. Not only because of how far away it is geographically, but also because of transportation challenges. So in this picture, you're actually seeing one of our students who's getting vaccinated. Elvia Alvarado talks about how for a lot of families, healthcare is just not something that they're able to access on a regular basis. I know of a story of someone whose daughter fell, and because of that, she gave birth really early. The baby was still living when she first gave birth, but again, she ended up having to get onto a motorcycle right after giving birth, holding onto her baby, and then take a bus to get to the big city. And unfortunately, the baby lost its life on the bus as she was trying to get access to healthcare. Not only that, but Elvia Alvarado talks a lot about the lack of access to clean drinking water. Often you'll see in those rural areas that children are struggling with diarrhea in a severe way. A lot of our graduates are doing pretty powerful work in their communities, some of them working on clean water projects. And we really want to keep in mind this idea of justice, so that the injustices that they face really do have long-term implications. And I think when Elvia says this at the end of the chapter, I want my grandchildren to have the same chances that rich children do, and then says at the end, I know I'm not going to see it in my lifetime, and I know it's already too late for my own children, but I'm fighting for my grandchildren. I'm fighting so that one day they too can enjoy all the wonderful things this world has to offer. We want to partner with these women so that they can also be those who are creating changes in their communities to be able to access justice for themselves and their children and their grandchildren as well. I'm actually now going to introduce our graduate speaker, whose name is Karen Ramirez. Karen graduated as part of cohort 5, and she's currently the program development coordinator for NICO, which is a pretty large orphan outreach nonprofit in Honduras. So Karen actually has a lot of experience and a lot of understanding of what it's like to live in these rural places in Honduras and kind of how that impacts communities. So Karen, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Thank you for sharing. And hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here. My name is Karen Ramirez, and I was a student at TLC in 2014. And I actually worked at TLC for almost 3 years. So right after I finished studying, I worked at TLC for 3 years. So I was at TLC total almost 6 years. I guess I will start by sharing about my family. So I have a large family. We are 7 total, 7 kids. My family lives in a very small town called San Jose. And I have 2 brothers, 4 sisters. And my childhood was a little bit hard too. So I actually started, let's say, working when I was very little. So my dad used to take his 4 older kids to pick coffee, to the mountain. We had to walk like 3 hours to get there, 3 hours back to our house to be able to get some money. And I think I started doing that since I was around 8 years old. My dad is a farmer, and my mom is just working at home, but she also used to work like, I think you've heard of Avon products. And we started doing that since we were very little. I actually, when I was going to high school, my parents just said, well, you will just stop studying because we don't have money to pay for your school things. So we cannot afford it. I remember myself wanting to study and just remembering my parents saying that, no, you cannot because we don't have the money. And my dream, was to speak English. Since I was little, I had that dream. Yes, one day, I want to learn English. My parents told me, we can afford for you to go to this school that you only went once a week. And that was it. But I wanted to go every day to school. So I remember when I was in 7th grade, I was there, but then I was thinking when I go to 9th grade, I want to go to the regular school that all my neighbors go. And I remember going to the director of the school I was in, and I said, hey, just take out the paperwork because my mom will enroll me to the other school. And she said, does your mom know that? And I said, yes, she told me to ask you for that. I was very like, yes, my mom told me. And she said, why don't your mom come? And I said, well, she's very busy, but don't worry. She told me I could do it. I knew lying was bad because my dad will call me like if I was lying, but I knew what I wanted, so I wasn't lying. I remember the next week after that, my mom went I think she only paid 700 lempiras for the whole year. Want to go to school every day. And she was like, but we don't have money and your dad will be very angry at you. He's not going to help you. And I knew it that when we were going to do something that was wrong or when we lied, it was problems for us. My dad is a very, very strict man, and he was not just scolding, but he would hit us and he would say that was not wrong. He would use his belt. My dad asking me, hey, Karen, what you did was wrong. And I know what I did, but I want to go to school. And I told him I will go and pick coffee. I don't mind to have my own vacation, like 2 months of vacation, going and picking coffee because I want to go to school. And he told me, well, we're going to make a deal. We are going to try to help you get the books, and you have to buy the uniform, and you're going to use that uniform, and you have to help us. And I said, yes, no problem. I was very happy. I remember there were even sometimes, and I'm not lying, my shoes had holes like in the, I don't know how you call it, but where you don't see it, but it had holes. And I remember when it rained, I was very embarrassed because my shoes were going to got wet. I didn't have money to buy lunch. I just buy like water, maybe 1 or 2 bags of water every day. I didn't take food or money to buy food. I just ate something coming back to my house, and it was beans and rice. It was pretty hard. And I just remember myself in my mind, I want to study, I want to study, I want to study. I heard about TLC and I was like so excited when I heard about TLC. I heard that it was like scholarship, boarding school. TLC changed my life. I mean, in many ways, just as a person, as a professional. Where I work right now, it's another NGO. It's called Orphan Outreach, as Hannah said it. And I feel so happy with that job because we work with kids that come from very, very, very hard places. These kids live in houses that are made out of cardboard, or it's even worse. Like if you see the situation where they live, they don't even have food to eat. Maybe they eat once a day. When I see that reality, I see them and I see that was me. Like that was me when I was a little kid. You don't have food, water is not clean, you don't have access to medicine, you don't have access to, to a lot of things. I am so grateful for all of you, like me, with a simple pair of shoes. You can think, right? A simple pair of shoes, but it means a lot. And right now, because of TLC, I'm able to help other kids. I'm able to help families because even the families that these kids have, they don't know how to read. And we help the kids through the process. We help them at the program I work right now, we also give food, we help them psychologically. And there are many things that we do for the kids. It's not just about being a TLC, but it's about what you do after TLC. You change lives. So, everything that I faced when I was a little girl, it all went away, with what TLC did for me. Now I'm able to help other people, to help my kids from Nico. We have 65 kids. They are little one. And when I see them, I just see myself, Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you guys.
We just want to say thank you to you also. I mean, I think even as you're sharing, I am feeling so much emotion, and I would imagine other people in the audience also are. It feels so powerful and inspiring to just hear how, honestly, you took the little seed you know, that we were able to provide a little bit of education. And I think you have multiplied it in ways that for me personally are humbling and inspiring to think about.
And there are many ways to get involved, including these 6. So sponsoring a student financially, becoming a pen pal, which is really important to help reinforce a lot of the English, them learning English and practicing their English and creating a sense of community with all of us. Making a one-time donation, which could be applied in a specific way or more generically to TLC more broadly. Investing in a capital project, which could involve bringing in new technology, building a new building, and so forth. And if you haven't been involved for a long time, the campus has continued to grow and expand, and we expect that to be the case. So we will continue to look for opportunities for sponsors and partners that can help invest in specific capital projects. Opportunity to visit campus and learn firsthand what it's like in Honduras, what our students have experienced through TLC, as well as just getting to know them personally. It's an incredible opportunity. And lastly, there is opportunity to join the organization in one way, shape, or form through being a participant on the board or a committee like I'm on. And I've had the opportunity to contribute in new and different ways and meet many people who share a similar passion as I do. So if you have interest in any of these, feel free to reach out to myself or Hannah or Leah afterwards, and we can put you in touch with more information. But of course, you can always go to leadershipmission.org, our website, and there's a ton of information out there where which you could read and learn more.